computer. Pode começar quando você quiser, tá?
Tá bom. Bom. Okay, let's start. My name is Thomas. I'm a postdoc at the agent-based modeling laboratory at York University in Canada. Well, right now I'm in Brazil. I'm waiting to be there in some months or whatever. I'm presenting a kind of mathematical modeling to get to have an idea, to get an idea about what could be the impact of the vaccination in Brazil, right? The vaccination against COVID-19. So let's talk a little about the history of the disease, especially in Brazil, about the vaccines that are available in Brazil, and the motivation of the work. So the first case of COVID-19 in Brazil happened on February 26th in São Paulo. And in March, the World Health Organization declared that the COVID-19 is a pandemic. A pandemic is an epidemic that reaches a lot of different territories around the world. So also in March, the government of São Paulo declared some control measures to trying to mitigate the spread of the disease. Right? And the first vaccine, well, the first potential vaccine was developed by the Pfizer. It's a company. It's very famous because of Viagra. Yeah. And well, it's interesting to note in July of the last year, middle July, Pfizer was already talking about sell the vaccines to Brazil and vaccinate people here in Brazil, right? And well, the point is that since the vaccination, the availability of the vaccines was a little late, right? We had more or less 1 year of pandemic before the first vaccines to be available and to be given. So new variants of the SARS-CoV-2, that's the virus that caused COVID-19, those new variants started coming up, right? So the first one we had some note is the British one, right? And after that, we had the British one, the Amazonical one. It raised it in Manaus. And then also, it's more recently in India, a new variant that's also very, very transmissible and reached a lot of different countries right now, including Brazil. So, and this is a kind of framework of the epidemics, the whole epidemics in Brazil. So it was, this kind of picture was taken in middle of May. And it's interesting to note this bottom figure here, because each color here represents 100,000 deaths. 100,000. So if we can see that, look, the first color here, well, it took a lot of time to reach 100,000 deaths. But this last one here in blue, it was 1 month and 10 days, 1 month and 1 week or something. It's really, really fast at this point because the epidemic was very bad here, right? So about the vaccine, the availability of vaccines. So the first one was Pfizer, but we don't have it. Well, right now it's getting to Brazil. The first doses are in Brazil, but it's not secret to anyone that, well, in the last year, as I said before, right, in middle July, Pfizer was already intending to give vaccines and sell vaccines in Brazil, but the government didn't answer the offers about the vaccine. And yeah, but well, they are getting to Brazil right now, but the first offer that was given from Pfizer, it was supposed to give 18 million doses until this month. 18 million doses is more or less 1/3 of the whole vaccines we gave at this point. So it would be a very, it would make a very, very difference in our current scenario, right? So in September last year, the Sinovac company, the company Sinovac and Butantan, they had a deal to start producing the new vaccine called CoronaVac. Also in September, Fiocruz, Fundação Oswaldo Cruz, also got a contract to produce the Oxford vaccine. And in January, those vaccines, CoronaVac and Oxford, they were approved by Anvisa in an emergency situation, right? So, and at this point, it's very important to talk about the efficacy of the vaccine, right? The Oxford was calculated around 70% of efficacy. The CoronaVac from Sinovac, it was actually this 50% efficacy against symptoms, right? It's against symptoms. Well, while Moderna, for example, it's produced in US, and Pfizer, they got around 95% of efficacy. And this is the motivation of this work, because when those news appeared about the vaccine efficacy, what happened is that there were a lot of criticism over the efficacy, especially CoronaVac. It's because it's 50%, right? So, well, our motivation is basically show that the point is that CoronaVac and Oxford, they are the vaccines that are more available for Brazilian people, right? Yeah, Pfizer is good. It's very good, better than CoronaVac and AstraZeneca, actually, right? And talking about efficacy, but it's not really available for us. It's not really available. So the point is that we need to vaccinate fast, and we need to vaccinate a lot of people. So we need vaccines that are available to be given. And the motivation of this work is to show that even with a lower efficacy vaccine, we can reach good results at the end if we vaccinate fast, and even with those, let's say, worse vaccine. So let's talk about the model. So the model is agent-based model. So basically, we really create a population inside the computer. And this population, it has the characteristics of the population we want to simulate, right? The age, the demographic distribution, the age distribution, the probability of having any comorbidity, the probability of dying due to COVID-19, all those characteristics of the disease and the population are put into the model, and we can see what happened in this population, this in silico population. In silico, it means that it's in a computer, and see what happened to the system. And the idea is that once we start vaccinating, we will not see what would be the worst scenario, right? And once we start vaccinating, we won't be able to see what would happen if we didn't vaccinate. We didn't vaccinate. So these simulations, they can give an idea about what is the impact of vaccination, right? What is the difference between one scenario that I'm not vaccinating and the scenario that I'm vaccinating. So the model brings all the characteristics of the disease. So we have susceptible people, and these susceptible people, they may be vaccinated, right? Both of them can get the disease. The vaccinated people has a lower probability of getting the disease when contacting one infected people. So if they get infected, they become exposed, right? And so they are infected, but they cannot transmit the disease. So an exposed individual, they may become asymptomatic or pre-symptomatic. So pre-symptomatic is have the same transmissibility of asymptomatic individual, but does not present symptoms yet, right? So a symptomatic individual may become mild, severe, or be hospitalized when severe. Severe or hospitalized people may die, and everybody who is infected may, become recovered if they did not die, right? So we simulated different scenarios for vaccine efficacy for the against infection, different scenarios of vaccine efficacy against severe symptoms, and different scenarios of vaccination, right? This is because the information we got from Anvisa is that the efficacy against symptoms is, let's say for CoronaVac, it's 50%, right? But we don't know what is the efficacy against infection, right? Well, the process of infection, the transmission, right? And we don't know what is the efficacy against the severe symptom, because the CoronaVac, for example, it didn't have a statistical significance when checking about those efficacies, right? So we simulated 3 scenarios of efficacy against infection. 0% of the efficacy against symptoms. So it does not protect against the infection, the transmission of the disease. 50% of the efficacy against symptoms. So let's say CoronaVac, it's 50% of efficacy against symptoms. So the protection against the transmission is 25%, right? It's 50% of 50%. So 100% of this protection against symptoms. So CoronaVac is 50% effective against infection, against the symptoms, and against infection, right? For the efficacy against severe symptoms, we had 0%. So vaccinated people don't have any protection against the severe symptoms, or 100%. It means that who is vaccinated never gets to the severe compartment, right? Severe individuals compartment. And about the vaccination scenarios, we simulated a vaccination rate of 0.3% of the population per day. It's called baseline scenario. We simulated 0.6% of the population per day. It's called fast vaccination scenario. And we also simulated a lower risk perception scenario. It means that vaccinated individuals, when they develop symptoms, they do not isolate themselves because they think that they cannot have the disease, right? So we have the results here. These green box here. It's the total number of infections, hospitalizations, ICUs, admissions, and deaths in the scenario with no vaccination, right? And the other boxes, they are the scenarios with the vaccination. So let's say these purple or blue box here, for example, it's the 100% scenario. It's related to those vaccine efficacy scenarios before, right? So 100% means that the same efficacy against symptoms is the efficacy against infection. And the second 100% means that the efficacy against severe symptoms is 100%. That means that vaccinated individual cannot develop severe symptoms, right? So you can see that this is actually the best scenario, right? The number of infections is the lowest, the number of hospitalizations and deaths, for example, right? And the worst, the worst scenario is this one, 0, 0, right? It's because there is no protection against infection and no protection against severe symptoms, right? So we can see that the impact of the vaccination is really, really high, right? This is for the baseline scenario. We have a kind of summary of all the results for the three scenarios that we presented. So the baseline, the double vaccination rate, and the low risk perception here, right, for CoronaVac and AstraZeneca, right, the Oxford vaccine. And in the y-axis, we can see the percentage reduction when comparing the vaccination scenario with the no vaccination scenario, right? So we are able to see here, for example, the blue box here is the best one to protect, right? It's the best scenario that we're simulating, that was simulated, sorry. And we can see that, for example, for the number of that is avoided, it may reach around 55% here if we vaccinate 0.3% of the population per day, right? But if we double this rate, vaccinating 0.6% of the population per day, corresponding to 1.2 million people per day, it's completely possible in Brazil, right? We can reach almost 80%, 75% of reduction in the number of deaths in one epidemic peak. The same for AstraZeneca, but AstraZeneca performs a little better because, well, the efficacy is a little higher, right? So, for example, in the baseline scenario, it may avoid around 65% of the death, and if we double the vaccination rate, it may avoid around 80% of the deaths, right? In the low risk perception, it's a little difficult to see here, but there is a reduction there is a decrease in the reduction. So, it's more or less around 3 to 5%. So if it's, let's say 55, now it goes to 50 percent of reduction. And well, 50% of reduction is actually 50%, no, sorry, 5% of reduction of this difference. It's a lot of deaths at the end of the day, right? So it's really important that vaccinated people keep the mitigation measures that are in place, right? And here, this is very interesting result. So the model is simulated. Basically, we have an entire susceptible population in the system, and we put one single infected in this population and let the disease to spread, right? But what happens if instead putting one single individual, infected individual in the population, what happens if we put 10, 20, or whatever, right? What happened? Well, the point is that the more initial infected individual we have in the population, the faster the disease is spread, right? At the beginning. I mean, and since we are vaccinating while the disease is spreading, it will decrease the the total efficiency of the vaccination campaign, right? Because well, the vaccination campaign efficiency depends on how fast to vaccinate and how many people we can reach before they get infected, right? So that's what we analyzed here, right? We instead start the epidemic with one single infected. We started the epidemic with 5, 15, 25, 35, and 45 individuals, infected individuals. And we can see that how the reduction decrease. The reduction basically means how efficient is the vaccination campaign, right? So let's say in this blue line here, that's the best one, right? So the reduction is around 55% if we start with one single infected individual. But if we start the simulation with 45, it reduced to less than 40%, right? So, and the same for AstraZeneca, the reduction is really, really high. What means that even with vaccination, we need to keep these precaution in the population, because we need the prevalence of the infections while vaccinating, right? We need the prevalence of infections to be the lowest, as low as possible, because it will impact a lot on the vaccination campaign efficiency, right? This is what we plan to do after, with some time. Here we have a kind of different model. We changed a little the model to be able to fit the incidence curve of cases to what is observed in the epidemics in Brazil, because it's really difficult. For example, in São Paulo, we have this oscillation pattern. It's really jiggle, because we have these, well, there is this opening plan that they are opening the commerce and business, and then they close everything because, well, the number of cases is increasing, so let's close everything. And this makes the pattern very difficult, to model, right? Some discussions we have here. So the efficacy of the vaccine is really important. It's really important, right? But at the same time, the availability of these vaccines is as important as the efficacy. So we need vaccines that are really available for us, right? Let's say right now we vaccinated around 55%, around 60 million doses. We gave around 60 million doses, right? And we can see that the first contract of Pfizer was 18 million doses, right? So if we didn't get the CoronaVac and AstraZeneca, we probably would be very, very bad at this point, right? Because we couldn't be vaccinating as much as we are. And we can really get very satisfactory results with the vaccines that we have. We only need to vaccinate fast, and well, let people to get it. We need to have a good vaccination campaign. We need to make people to understand that they must complain, that they must attend to those mitigation measures to keep the prevalence of the infection low while we are vaccinated, right? And well, any new vaccine that we can get, Pfizer, Johnson & Johnson, and whatever, it's supposed to make the scenario better, right? It's not a competition. So as many vaccines we can have, the better will be the scenario, right? It's important that people keep the control measures, the social distance, whatever, because we don't have there is no enough vaccinated people in the population at this point. So we need to keep some control measures in the population. These social distance measures, they are really important. And one question that we can answer this kind of model, we intend to do that after, is what would be happen? Yeah, what would be happen if the government had bought the first doses of Pfizer at that point, right? On, I think, in September the last year, right? They intended to start vaccinating in December with Pfizer. So it could be a really different. Some acknowledgements. So this is the group that developed the model with me. Professor Sayed, he is my supervisor in the York University, and kindly let us to use the computational sources of the York University, and this is this is for a conference I participated, right? And that's it, guys. Thank you.
Oh, wow. That was good. That was good. You guys can open up your microphones if you want to.